Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, where we are actually about to have, hopefully, a kind of thunderstorm through the evening. Looking forward to that. We always have books, but I am sans a cup of coffee, and only because it is getting later in the evening. I just got back from D&D, so I feel like it's a good time to wind down, record a couple episodes, and then get myself all cozy with my pups and another good book. But today we are talking about The Forest Grimm by Kathryn Purdie. Now, this says it is number 1 of the Forest Grimm duology, and I thought it was actually pretty good. I don't think it's perfect, but I love when a book is able to kind of weave in classic fairy tales, especially like the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales, which is exactly kind of what this echoes of, as well as kind of giving it its own spin. So let's dive into the summary and we'll go from there. Where fairy tales come to life with dark, deadly twists. Tell me again, Grimm, the story of how I die. The Midnight Forest, the Fanged Creature. 2 fortune-telling cards that spell an untimely death for 17-year-old Clara. Despite the ever-present warning from her fortune-teller grandmother, Clara embarks on a dangerous journey into the deadly Forest Grimm to procure a magical book, Sortes Fortunae, the Book of Fortunes, and with it the power to reverse the curse on her village and save her mother. Years ago, when the villagers whispered their deadly desires to the book, and I'm still reading that incorrectly, their deepest desires to the book, its pages revealed how to obtain them. All was well until someone used the book for an evil purpose, to kill another person. Afterward, the branches of the Forest Grimm snatched the book away. The well water in Grimm's Hollow turned rancid, and the crops died from disease. The villagers tried to make amends with the forest, but every time someone crossed its border, they never returned. Now, with no alternative left, Clara and her close friend Axel, who is fated never to be with her, have set their minds to defy fate and daring to accomplish what no one else has been able to before. But the forest, alive with dark, deadly twists on some of the most well-known fairy tales, has a mind of its own. So, I thought this book was clever. Again, I didn't think it was perfect, but I was very intrigued, and I think I read this in probably 2 sittings. I want to say like one morning. It's only about 350 pages, and I want to say on my e-reader, it was around 316. So in one sitting, I was able to knock out about 150 pages, and in the second sitting, I think I knocked out the rest. Again, it was pretty engaging. If you're familiar with any of the Grimm's classic, like I guess the old school OG fairy tales, not the Disney-fied versions, but you'll understand that the Grimm fairy tales are dark. They do not tend to have happy endings. They have lots of twists and turns, and most of the people in the stories tend to suffer as much as they may, if at all, triumph. And again, it's very few, far between, and rare in a true Grimm fairy tale. I know most people think of course, the Disney versions where Rapunzel gets Eugene or Flynn Rider, or Cinderella lives happily ever after, and all that sort of thing. But of course, that's not what the fairy tales truly say. And in this particular book, we encounter Clara, who at this particular time the book opens, she's 17 years old, and her grandmother, who tells fortunes with her tarot cards, has only ever told her 2 of her cards. And she always stops there and tells her that she can't read anymore. Well, when Clara devises a way to more or less trick her grandmother into telling her full fortune, Clara already kind of has a feeling of what those cards might be. Well, she knows what she hopes one of them will be, which is this specific red card. and it is supposed to be the card of the fate changer, the person who can change their fate. However, there's a fourth card also played as well, and I want to say it's like the pierced swans or something of that nature. But we go through this particular book, and I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, it is considered young adult. To my recollection of sitting down and reading it as quickly as I did, there is no spicy scenes. The romance is, it's more like, gosh, it's not unrequited love. It is unattainable almost in a way, because Clara really likes her friend Alex. Now they are Alex is Axel. Sorry, Axel. And they seem to kind of circle each other in kind of a very kind of what's cutesy romantic way. But Axel, before they set off into the wood, had previously intended to marry someone else, Ella. And yet, one day, Ella set off into the woods and became one of the lost ones, just as Clara's mother also became, I want to say, the first lost one. And when you go into the woods, and if the forest or the woods, the forest Grimm, if it accepts you, then it opens its way to you and you can go out into the forest. However, if it does not accept you, then it pretty much rejects you and kicks you out. Now, there has been a point in this particular book, and I wish I knew a little bit more about kind of what happened, but we do get more in this particular book. Now, I haven't read the second one yet, and I want to click and see if or when that book is coming out. It is expected publication. It's called The Deathly Grimm, and it's expected publication of 2025. So I'm going to read it because I kind of want to continue this story and see what's going on with book number 2. I just want to see, because the story hasn't ended yet, and I'm very curious, just very, very curious, because we're not left on a cliffhanger so much as making it back in more or less one piece, but psychologically it's a question. But let's get back to this book, because I'm gonna find myself really digging into the second book without talking about this first one enough. But anyway, Clara is determined to be her village's, I guess, offering to the forest for this particular lottery. Now, they have to put their names into a cup. If their name is drawn, they are then, they try to go into the forest Grimm in order to try and retrieve the ones who have been lost, the lost ones, but also to hopefully retrieve this book of fortunes that the forest took back. Well, let's just say, even though Clara tries to stack the cards or the pieces of paper in her favor, Axel's name is chosen. And when he's chosen, he's actually pretty eager to try to do this. Now, it doesn't seem as though it's mandatory to put your name into this cup to try to win this lottery, so to speak. It does not seem like you have to. It appears to be volunteer only, because it does seem as though there's at least one girl who is Clara's best friend, Henny, who doesn't seem to have put her name in, doesn't seem to have really wanted to go, even though her sister, Ella, is one of the lost ones. And I'm in my brain, I'm trying to ensure that I'm not oversharing too much, because I don't want to spoil it for those who are interested. But I'm also trying to give you all enough that you kind of understand what's going on. So there is this feeling of a Little Red Riding Hood story, which is not unlike a book that I just recently read called A Song of the Dark Wood. And I feel like we do start with Clara, who has a red cloak that was dyed by her mother for a specific reason, and it gives her a little bit of protection in the woods. Um, and there is a wolf-ish type creature, and there are other characters as well. Now, it says that the like one person who he says that this world is set where the main character speaks French. Um, and I just the the grandmother the grandmother speaks French, but it's very basic French, like mon chéri or something of that nature. So I don't think it's like wild, especially if this book takes place in a fantastical sort of land where like maybe the grandmother came here and they don't venture into the outside world. So now once you're here, you're here. Um, it feels as though this has a really good resonance to me of like the Black Forest, and I want to say maybe the Black Forest is considered in Germany, where a lot of these old folklorish type tales took place. Another kind of, I guess, critique that I saw that did not bother me was that this other individual said it's haphazard, kind of unrelated fairy tales, which I also don't agree with. It seems as though this Forest Grimm is truly the setting of these Grimm's brother fairy tales. So I don't feel like they're not unrelated. Like, I think that's where, because in my personal mind, when I read or I guess dive into the Grimm brother fairy tales, like the OG ones, I do picture them more or less in and around the Black Forest, because I have always kind of heard this folklorish sort of um, echoings, these tales that maybe that's a source of magic where maybe magic used to be or once was or something of that nature. I want to even say even like Baba Yaga might be like somewhere in that general, not exact area, but somewhere in that general area as well. So for me, having all of these kind of come together felt fine. And I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Oh, so sorry. But I liked it. I thought it was good. We do get a little bit of what I call a side encounter with a Rapunzel. We do get an encounter with Cinderella, and we get quite a few others as well. I think I picked this book up with the idea of a book called Forest Grimm, and the cover of this wolf kind of imposed onto like a forest, and I got exactly what I was imagining. I wanted something that was dark fairy tale, and it was. I wanted something that kind of had more or less like star-crossed lovers or a retelling of some sort, and I got that as well. Now, again, I am interested and eager to see when book 2 comes out of this duology, because even though we do get an introduction to these characters, they're not fully fleshed out yet. We still have a lot to learn about them, and I think they still have a lot of growth in them, but I am intrigued. I would like to see how this plays out with Henny, with Clara, with Axel, if we can retrieve the lost ones, or maybe some of them, maybe I'm trying not to spoil anything for you guys. If you're interested, then I think this could be really good, but you need to kind of imagine that this is going to take Grimm's fairy tales, tell them in a new and different way other than what we've imagined before, and we have to suspend the belief of the things we know or the things we think we know. Fairy tales are not meant to make a ton of sense. And I think that's what makes this book kind of interesting. The forest is magical and dark and wild, and I guess you expect the unexpected. So all of that happens in what I thought was an entertaining sort of way. I do plan to write my review tomorrow when I get around to sitting down at a computer for longer than the 15 minutes it takes me to read this or to speak this, and see where we go from here. Now, I don't know if this will be up your alley. It's certainly up mine. When I read Song of the Dark Wood, that one probably was not as up my alley as this one. So whereas I maybe gave that one a 4-star, I probably give this one a 4.25 for my personal reading. It was really more or less up the alley I was looking for, as well as a little bit more of my taste. I don't need a ton of romance. I'm totally fine if the characters kind of circle each other and maybe we don't always get together in the end. I'm fine with those sorts of things. And yeah, I'm excited to see what book 2 has. So anyway, I think I'm going to stop there before I ramble too much more and kind of start spilling the beans, because I really am trying not to tell you how this book plays out. I'm trying to keep you kind of engaged in like that first half, so you'll go if you're interested and see how the second half plays out. But yeah, with all of that being said, I do want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed, I certainly hope you will. Or sorry, a little thumbs up or something always helps. But until next time, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you guys on the next page, and I hope you have a great one. Bye.